All right, let's get right into it. You ever notice this? How the calmest, most level-headed person you know can just completely transform the second they get behind the wheel of a car? It's this bizarre personality switch we've all seen, and hey, maybe we've even done it ourselves. So today, we're going to unpack the hidden psychology of why this actually happens.
I mean, this is the real mystery, isn't it? It's one thing to get annoyed when someone else messes up, but the truly weird part is when we're the one who just cut someone off, and a second later, we're the one screaming at them. It makes no logical sense, but it is an incredibly common reaction. So, what is going on inside our heads?
Well, it turns out the answer isn't that driving reveals we're all secretly awful people. Phew. No, it's that the act of driving itself triggers this unique cocktail of psychological biases and weird environmental pressures. So let's take a look at these hidden culprits, the ones inside our own minds that are really setting the stage for all that anger.
Okay, so culprit number one is something called cognitive dissonance. See, most of us like to think of ourselves as pretty good, competent drivers. It's part of our self-image. So when we do something that, well, isn't competent, like making a really dumb mistake, it creates this painful glitch in our brain. And the absolute easiest way for our brain to fix that discomfort, it's not to admit we messed up. No, it's to find an external reason, to shift the blame. And that blame very quickly turns into frustration and anger. Now, this whole instinct to blame someone else gets a huge boost from another mental quirk. This one's a biggie in psychology. It's called the actor-observer bias. And what it boils down to is this. We have two totally different rule books for judging mistakes. We have one for ourselves and a much, much harsher one for everybody else. And you see this play out perfectly on the road. When I make a mistake, I know the whole story, right? I know I'm stressed, I'm late, the sun was blinding me, I've never been on this road before. My mistake has a reason. It's situational. But when I see you make that exact same mistake, I don't see any of your circumstances. All I see is the error. So my brain just jumps to the quickest conclusion about your character. You're an idiot. You're a menace. You shouldn't be allowed to drive.
So we're already wired to blame other people to protect our own self-image. And this gets even worse because of another powerful bias, our own ego. It's often called the better-than-average effect or illusory superiority. And it's pretty much what it sounds like. Most of us think we're better at things than we actually are. And you know, this is especially true when it comes to driving.
And I mean, just look at the numbers here. They just don't work. Study after study shows that something like 90%, 90, of drivers think they're an above-average driver. But of course, statistically, only 50% of people can be above average. That's just math. This huge gap means our brain is so overconfident that it's almost impossible for it to accept that we made a mistake. If we're a great driver, then any problem, by definition, has to be someone else's fault. Okay, so we've got all this internal psychology just priming us for conflict. But that's only half the story. The car itself and the whole environment of the road creates the perfect conditions for that anger to actually ignite. It really is a recipe for misunderstanding.
I love this quote. It's the perfect way to think about it. The car gives us this sense of anonymity, of protection. In psychology, they call this de-individuation. Basically, inside our little medical cocoon, we feel disconnected from everyone else, and all the normal social rules, being polite, giving people the benefit of the doubt, they just start to fade away. And this is the really crucial part. We're no longer interacting with other human beings. We're interacting with obstacles. That person who cut you off isn't a person anymore. They're just a blue SUV. That driver in front of you is just a slow truck. And it is so much easier to get angry at an object than it is at a person that you have to look in the eye. And to make it all worse, think about our communication tools. On the street, you can use a gentle tone, a smile, a little gesture to sort things out. On the road, what have you got? You have a horn, which basically sounds like a scream, and you have your headlights, which look like an angry glare. Any attempt you make to communicate is almost guaranteed to be seen as an aggressive attack, which just makes everything worse.
And all this happens at the absolute worst possible moment for us to learn anything. The second a mistake happens, our brain floods with adrenaline and enters a hot state. It's pure emotion, fight or fright. The logical, self-reflective part of our brain just shuts down. Any feedback, like a horn honk, is perceived as a threat. The only time we can actually learn is later when we're in a cold state, when we're calm and we can actually think clearly about what happened. So, is this just how it is? Are we all doomed to this angry cycle? Well, not necessarily. Let's look at someone who thinks about driving in a completely different way, a professional driving instructor.
It's like they're running on a whole different mental operating system. The key difference is a skill called metacognition. It's a fancy word, but it just means the ability to think about your own thinking. See, while most of us are on autopilot, an instructor is constantly analyzing their actions, the car, the environment. So for them, a mistake isn't some personal insult that their ego needs to defend. It's just data. It's a data point that signals an opportunity to learn and improve.
So let's put these two mindsets side by side. The average driver's brain, it's ego-driven, it's on autopilot, and it sees the road as a landscape of personal threats and insults. But the instructor's brain, it's logic-driven, it's fully analytical, and it sees a world of data and patterns. It is just a profound shift in perspective. All of this brings up a really fascinating question. If this is such a deeply human problem, can technology do anything to fix us? The industry is definitely trying, but it turns out to be a massive, massive challenge.
You see, the problem with a lot of the current tech, like those black boxes from insurance companies, is that they measure physics, not behavior. A box can tell that you slammed on the brakes, and it might penalize you for it, but it has no idea why. It can't tell the difference between you texting and driving and you being a hero who just avoided a kid running into the street. It completely lacks context. So the real future here isn't about technology being a better judge. It's about it becoming a coach. Think about it. Instead of a nagging voice telling you you're angry, which, let's be honest, would just make you angrier, a future car might use really subtle cues. Maybe it notices your grip tightening and changes the cabin lights to a calming blue, de-escalating your stress without ever triggering your ego.
But maybe the most powerful tool for change is actually something surprisingly simple. It's what's known as the mirror effect. So often, we have absolutely no idea how irrational or aggressive we look from the outside, until we're forced to actually watch ourselves.
And this, right here, is the real game changer of things like dash cams. When you are forced to sit down and watch a video of yourself absolutely losing your mind over a mistake that you caused, there's nowhere for your ego to hide. That cognitive dissonance becomes impossible to ignore. You have to confront the reality of your own actions, and that moment can be an incredibly powerful catalyst for real change.
So technology might one day provide that objective mirror for all of us, acting as a kind of calm digital coach. But until that day comes, it leaves us with a pretty critical question to ask ourselves the next time we get in the car. If you held up a mirror to your own driving, what would you really see?